Okay, everybody, I've got our work table cleaned off out there. You remember all the crap that was on it? Well, it's all gone. And we're going to go ahead and get started on these BGA chips. I am going to burn those off in a fire. I'm not going to go through that because actually it's still too hot out here, even though it is a little cooler right now. But, you know, everybody's seen that happen, been done. You know, it's been done hundreds of times on YouTube. So we're just going to burn those off. We're going to rinse them. You know, when I get down to the gold concentrate on these, we'll come back to them. I'm going to go ahead and get these. I've got some AP in that tub out here. Right there. I'm going to go ahead and put those fingers in that. We've got a big piece of LCD screen, thick plastic we're going to cover it with, so that way the sun can get in it, and if it rains it isn't going to get messed up. A couple other little projects going there, so I'm going to go ahead and get that done, and then we'll get back at you. Okay guys, my foot was bothering me a little bit, so I had to sit down for a minute, and while I was sitting here I was looking at these chips, these BGA chips, and this is something that I've never done. So I was sitting here taking a break, so I just went ahead and separated these out. These are all Intels, which I've heard, I don't have proof of that, but I've heard they're the best. These are Cisco systems, all the same, and these are just some random names that are nothing. I mean, not nothing, but I mean, I've not heard of, or they're not a common name. The Cisco system chips are mostly made in Hong Kong from what I've seen on each of the chips. The Intels are Philippines and Taiwan, and then the majority of these, there's a few from Korea, which are the oddballs, and also Taiwan. I'm thinking that I'm going to weigh these up and do these in batches, and let's see how they yield out compared to their weight. Now we have no copper tops in here, we have no heat sink tops, so we can get a pretty good idea of the Intels versus the Ciscos versus the just generics. So I'm going to go ahead and weigh these out and write down what the weights are of each, and I'm going to do them in separate batches and process them that way just for the heck of it, because I've never done that before. So we'll see by weight, you know, which of these actually yields the best. So a new experiment, guys. So let me get them weighed up and start getting them burned off, and we'll see which ones turn out to be the best. So we'll get back at you in a bit. Okay everybody, we have finished up our ash. What we have here is the generics, was about 62 grams. The Cisco's was about 146 grams, and 175 grams of the Intels. Now this is going to be, it's not going to be exactly the same as inside because I use this scale out here to weigh these. But we're going to go ahead and go through the rinsing procedure. I'm not going to go through all that with you. That's our little bit of basically just silicon dyes or silicon diodes that were crushed and left over. So I'm going to go ahead and get this stuff rinsed, get it down to the concentrates, and we will go from there, and we'll see what each batch of these yielded. I just figured, well, you know, we might as well try it. As I said before, I've never done it this way before, you know, by separating by brands. And so it'll answer a couple of my questions and maybe a couple of yours. So we will get back at you when we are down to the concentrates and ready to process this. Then we're going to get started on these bad boys. I did manage to rig up old silver I can use for, I can't use it for pouring anymore, but it does get just hot enough that I can burn chips off in it. So after a couple times with a fire and cans, that got to be a pain, so I just put them in there and it worked. So at least old silver still is alive and able to be used for something. Out there on the table too is also our ram fingers, and they are coming along probably a couple more days and they'll be ready. So when I get back at you, we should be down to the concentrates on this and see what we get out of them. So we will see you all in a bit. Well guys, I'm just popping back in for a second. I guess I spoke too soon. Old silver has just fried another coil. So I am not going to make another one to put in it. You know, even though that came in handy for my last batch of chips to burn them off, it's just too much of a pain. It keeps frying coils, I don't know, you know. So I think we're going to just lay old Silver to rest and see if we can't work something else out. So anyhow, I just thought I'd pop back in and tell you, old Silver resurrected for about a half an hour and kicked the bucket again. So there we go. Bye bye, everybody. Say bye bye, old Silver. Alrighty guys, we'll get back to you in a bit. Okay guys, we have rinsed batch 1, which this was the generics. Get out here in the sunshine, see if you can see in the bottom. There's our gold from the generics. So I'm going to go ahead and get this put in some acid, some hydrochloric, and we're going to boil it off for a while, and then we will go over to Aqua Regia. So I'm going to go ahead and clean the other metals out of this and continue to clean these two guys. So we'll be back at you in a bit. Okay everybody, there is our 3 drops from our 3 batches of chips. I didn't go through and show the drops because I'm going to have to refine all this anyway. So we will just, I'll show that one in its entirety. You know, redissolving all the gold and doing the drop and melt and everything else. But I just wanted to show you that we did get our 3 batches done. That is our 3 drops. So this was our first one from the generics. And we actually got a fairly decent little drop out of that. I mean, it's a little bit more than I expected to get out of it. So maybe this one's going to turn out pretty good. But anyway, we just dropped this other one not too long ago, and this one just a minute ago. So I'm going to let these bad boys settle out overnight. And we will melt these up in the morning and see what we get out of them. So I will see you guys in the morning. Okay everybody, it is the next day and our drops have settled out. I'm going to go ahead real quick and grab me a little testing tray and test these fluids and make sure that they're barren. Then I'm going to go ahead and get this gold out of here and get them melted off and see what we got. This was what we had started with our chips. There's our 3 drops, and I'm going to see, I mean, from everything that I've ever done, I mean, I see people, you know, saying they get this out of that and that out of this, you know, and whatever. I average about 7 grams per kilo on chips. Anywhere from 7 grams. I've heard it from 7, and I've heard it, I have never gotten 13, but I heard somebody say that they actually got 13 grams out of a kilo one time. So, and I've heard of people getting less. So I'm going to call it, you know, the range is anywhere from 6 grams to 13 grams per kilo for the BGA chips, depending on the chips and everything else. That's kind of why I wanted to do this, to see if there's actually a difference in the yield. So worst case scenario, I mean, pretty much the worst I've ever gotten is about 7 grams a kilo. So that's 0.7 grams of gold per 100 grams of chips. So we can kind of base on that. And like I said, I know I've heard of worse than that, and I've heard of better than that. So we're going to see what we got out of this. I'm not going to go through all the filtering and all that, and you know, that's just a lot of redundant stuff for nothing. So when I get these little beads melted up, we'll weigh them out and we'll see what we ended up getting. Like I said, at the end when I do the final refine, I'll go through that whole process where you guys can see me do it all. There's just going to be too many, you know, I've got to do the same thing with these, I've got to do the same thing with those out there. So there's no point in doing this a half a dozen times and doing exactly the same thing over and over. So I will get back to you when we have this stuff melted up and we see what we got out of it. So we'll see you in a bit. Okay everybody, there is our spent ash from our chips after I've dissolved everything out of it. There is our 3 jars that we started with, and before I get into this, I have a little something to say right quick about doing refines for other people. I've had several, I don't know, people contact me or even talk to me or leave comments that, you know, they do their own stuff, but they don't like doing refines for other people. I actually love it, and I'm going to tell you why. The simple thing is it gives me a much wider variety of material to process, which means I get to learn something new almost every time I do a refine. This is absolutely just amazing to me because I never did this before. Doing the generics, these were all Cisco's, these were all Intel. You are not going to believe what I've found, okay? If we're using the rule of 7, which most seem to agree that 7 grams of gold per kilo, you know, like I said between 6 and 13, but pretty much on an average, everybody agrees is 7 grams of gold per kilo of gold corner BGAs is a pretty good average. Okay, so these were the generics. And actually I have the gold in a little tube because I don't want to lose it, but those were the generics. And as you can see, we got a little bit of gold from our generics. Using the rule of 7 for the weight we started with, the rule of 7 says we should have gotten 0.43 grams of gold out of those. Okay? And what we actually did get was a beautiful little nearly pure bead. It's got a cave in on it at 0.44 grams. So we actually got more than the rule of 7 for batch 1, which was the generics. Now I'm going to go to batch 3. I'm going to skip batch 2. I'm going to skip the Cisco's for a minute because you ain't going to believe this. Okay, so here's our Intels. Our Intels, we had 175.99 grams of chips. Rule of 23 or rule of 7 should be 1.23 grams. And here's what we got. Another beautiful cave-in button of pure gold. Damn near, excuse me, damn near pure gold. Okay, but 1.85 grams. We actually got more than a half a gram more than the rule of 7. So that goes to show that the Intels are better than the generics. Okay, by far they're better. So you probably could get, you know, maybe 13 grams out of a kilo if they were all Intels. That proves that right there. So that's 1. This is 3. Now I got to show you something extremely weird, which again is why I said I really like doing other people. It gives me access to more material. Rule of 7, the Cisco chips were 146.58. They should have yielded 1.02 grams of nearly pure or pure gold. It actually yielded 1.27 grams of this crap. Now I have no idea. I know there's gold in it, but can you see that? Let me see if I can put this. Hang on. Let me pause for a second and put this on close up. Do you see this thing? Look at that. It looks like extremely low carat gold compared to these. And you're not going to believe it. I'm going to put the camera on the stand and I'm going to show you something real quick on how I don't know what that is. I know there's gold in it, but it's very little. So let me get this set up on the camera stand and I'm going to show you something that's unbelievable. So we'll be back at you in just a sec. Okay guys, here is our whatever this conglomerate of stuff is that we got out of the Cisco chips. I'm going to drop it in this little dish. Let me get a little dish for water. And I want to show you something. This may have gold in it, but I have no idea what this is. And I mean no idea what else is in there that would have dropped out like gold. You see what I'm doing? This is just a regular propane torch. Okay, regular propane torch. You ready? It's already beginning to melt. I mean, is it tin? Is it lead? Is it... what is it? I mean, that's the whole thing. It's melted. That's it. It is melted. I mean, that's a cold dish, and that is a butane torch, and that is it. And you know, and I know, gold does not melt with a butane torch that fast. It is still fluid right now. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get it out of here again. Yeah, there it is. Now it's set. Now it's got gold color. It looks like if I had to call it, I would call it 10 or 14 karat gold. But you saw it right before your eyes, how fast that melted. In a cold dish, I can probably... I can pick the dish up. I can pick it up with my hand. So what temperature was that? What was that? So I'm going to try and re-refine this piece and see if we get any gold out of these Cisco chips at all. But right there is the exact reason why I like doing refines for other people. For whatever reason, I decided, you know, I was going to separate these out and try it. I'm glad I did, because whatever this was would have contaminated the rest of the gold. But you just saw it right there. Butane torch, and this dropped out like gold, and I can pick the dish up. I mean, it's hot. I can't hold it, but I can pick it up, and I'm not burnt with this. So I'm going to re-refine this piece by itself. I'm going to see if there's any gold in it at all, because I don't know what that is. So I just wanted to show you that, guys. Otherwise, we got, let's see, 1.85 and 0.44, so that is 2.29 grams out of the chips, and whatever we end up with out of this weird thing, if anything. So we know right now, as it stands, Cisco chips, at least these particular Cisco chips that I did, Cisco systems out of Hong Kong, are going to be virtually worthless, because this has gold color, but I doubt very seriously that there's that much gold in it. So I'm going to go ahead and get it re-refined. I have to run to the hospital right now and see my dad, so I'll have to do that this afternoon. And I'm going to re-drop this, and I'm going to see what we get out of it. But I'll bet we're going to get next to nothing. So I'll be back at you guys with the results from this.
I hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.